She meets John, they fall in love, they start their family. It's the end of the war. John's coming home to Liverpool, bringing his young family with him, and he tells Mo that in this city he's a very important man. He owns the Liverpool Boxing Stadium, the first purpose-built boxing stadium in the country. It meant nothing to her until they arrived in Liverpool, Christmas Day 1945, and she watched John mobbed on the quayside. Johnny Best's home. When's the boxing stadium opening? Can we carry your children, Mr. Best? Can we stare at your wife, Mr. Best? Spreading this rumour through Liverpool that Johnny Best, the boxing promoter, has married an Indian princess. It wasn't true. She loved that rumour, which is why when she was hoovering up around the house, she liked to just slip on a little tiara, made her feel at home. They moved around a number of houses, Best family homes, but the main one was Ellersby Manor. The Best family lived in a manor house. Colossal building, dwarfed this property. They were very, very wealthy, and Mo hated it there. And she came to John. She said, we've got to find our own place. He said, start looking. She found a lighthouse, and he said no. She found a big white roundhouse on the way into Southport, on the outskirts of Liverpool. It's a landmark. He said no. She found a fort. He said no. Then eventually the middle brother, Rory, walking home from school, saw this house. He told our mother. She came and looked at the house. She loved the house. She brought Johnny Best to the house, and he said no. And she'd had enough of him saying no, so without him knowing, she went and gathered all her jewellery together. She went to a pawn shop. She pawned her jewellery, and the money from the jewellery, which was everything she had to her name, she went and bet it all on a horse in the 1954 Derby. She knew nothing about horse racing. You're right, Ed. She knew nothing about horse racing. We'll talk about the money you owe me after. I don't want to put you on the spot in front of everyone. So she knew nothing about horse racing, but she bet everything she had on this horse, Never Say Die. And she bet on that horse because she liked its name. She took the name to be Don't Give Up. The horse won. She got her winnings, she got her jewellery back, and she bought this house. Wow. The family moved into the house in 1954. Now we'll jump 5 years, 1959. Pete and Rory have got a huge gang of friends, always in the house, driving our mother nuts. And she gets the boys and she tells them, Friday, no friends. She just wants them home, eating a meal together, watching television together, like a normal family. Have you ever met one of them? Just checking. That night they watched a program called the 6-5 Special, and it was doing a special on the Two Eyes Coffee Bar in London. And she saw the Two Eyes Coffee Bar, she saw this vibrant rock and roll scene, and at the end of the program she turned to John and asked if there was any rock and roll coffee bars in Liverpool. And he said no, there's nothing like that. And she said, well, we should do it. We should convert the cellars into a rock and roll coffee bar and put rock and roll groups on. What do you think? And he said, no. And the work began the very next day. With 12 weeks to go, she's now thinking she needs a rock and roll group. And she finds a young group called the Les Stewart Quartet. And she speaks to one of the members, and he said, we'd love to do this. And she put him to work straight away, decorating in the club. And then with 8 weeks to go, he came round to see her, and he was looking very forlorn. And he said, I'm awfully sorry. He said, Les Stewart doesn't want to play the Casbah. His mum and dad think that Pete and Rory will be a terrible influence on their son, and they don't want him to be involved with the family. But